Cassie and Kenny here, and welcome to the Money Mindset. Oh, come on. There we go. Money Mindset Goal Setting and Dream Big Workshop, where we're going to talk about identifying and changing your money mindset, dreaming big, setting goals, and getting your financial house in order. So, awesome. All right, let me get rid of this over here real quick. All right. And then just get my Facebook going again. Sorry. Perfect. Oh, come on, technology. Gotta love technology here. Anyways, so a little bit about me. I am a money mindset, dream big, and podcast host. Dream big coach and podcast host. So I love talking about numbers. I do finance, dream big coaching. I help people take the concepts that they hear in finances and get their mind to wrap around them and apply them. And then dreaming big. I love helping people dream big. It's a passion of mine because I believe we've all been dreaming big at the beginning. When we were kids, we always had a dream, but then it got pushed aside when life happened and stuff. So I help people pull the dreams off the shelf and start dreaming again. And then podcasts. I run a podcast talking about passions and stuff. So that's a little bit about me. I'll turn it over to Cassie for a moment.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm Cassie Kramer. I am the owner of Ascend Bookkeeping. There's a lot of ways you could describe us, but I like to call us essentially just a bunch of number nerds. So very similar to Kenny, we love numbers. Numbers are a very exciting and fun thing, and a lot of people tend to look at numbers and genuinely hate it and think they're frustrating or intimidating or restrictive or whatever that might be. And I like to come in and just say, you know what? Let's figure out how to get these numbers to work for you in the space that works best there. So not only in the bookkeeping realm do we help with the business owners and get the business financial houses in order, but we love to bring in personal finances, getting families to have their financial house in order, couples, individuals, whatever that looks like. It's really important that we all understand the difference between budgeting, which a lot of people look at as a negative thing, which in my opinion it's not a four-letter word. It can be a very positive thing. So if budgeting is a little bit of a trigger here for you, we like to look at budgeting instead as financial stewardship. So your relationship with your money, whatever that looks like, however much it is it something that's positive? Is it something that you're feeding? So in turn, it can turn and feed you. So that is where we get all super nerdy over here.
Awesome, love it. And yeah, so many of those words we have a negative definition or a negative connotation applied to them, like budgeting. And
For
I think,
sure.
that's part of the money mindset is that tells you partly where your mindset is. Everybody has a money mindset. It's just identifying what it is and where it's at. And that's one of
Yep.
those things is if you hear the word budget and you think it's restrictive, or you think it's limiting, or something you hate doing, or you feel like you have to live by this budget, that's a good indication that your money mindset is kind of on the scarcity side. Um,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, and it's not serving you well. So, to define money mindset is an attitude and belief you've developed or you've established about money over your lifetime. Again, when you hear about money, do you cringe? Do you hate when people talk about money? Um, is budgeting a four-letter word? Invest versus spending. A lot of those terms are indications of where your money is, your mindset is. And one of the ways that you could tell. Another way is how you respond to the price of something. If If I said, let's say you're looking at a car and that car costs $75,000, what's your first reaction to it? That's a good indication. If you gasp for air, you're like, oh, sticker shock, then that's a good indication of where your money mindset is. It's in that scarcity, limited, I'll never get there. Or do you go, okay, 75 grand, let's roll with it. Even if I'm not sure where it's going to come from, I'm not sure how to do it at the moment, but I know it'll happen. Then you're on the right track with a money mindset of abundance and one that's serving you. Excuse me. Another way is looking at your current results. If your results are an indicator of what's going on internally. Your outside results are an indication of what's been happening internally. So if you're paycheck to paycheck, if you're always worried about money every time you go to the grocery store, that's an indication of what's been going on in there and your scarcity versus abundant mindset. So what are some of the ways that you know or determine where your money mindset came from? Think about your life growing up. People you were raised with. What does their outside circumstances look like? What does their money mindset look like? The people you hang around with today, what is their money mindset? You're what's the word I'm looking for? You're a collective of all of those people that you've grown up with and hang around. Like the saying, you are like the 5 people you hang around with the most. I can't think of the exact word I'm looking for right now, but it'll come to me. So, and then how do you change your mindset? And Cassie, don't let me ramble on the whole time, so feel free to interject if ever. But what are some ways?
You go for it. I like it. I love this. You know me, I'll talk mindset all day. It's a good space to be in.
Oh yeah. If you've got your mind around it and you can wrap around some of these concepts on a positive manner, you can go all day. Absolutely. So what are some of the ways that you change your mindset? First off, you got to believe it's possible, and then believe it's possible for you. Because if you don't believe it, then it's not going to do you any good. No matter who comes and talks to you, no matter how much book reading you do, no matter how much hand holding, if you don't believe it's possible, then it's not going to go anywhere. Then second thing, you've got to decide what you want for your money mindset to look like. What does that look like for you? Not for me, not for Cassie, not for your neighbor, not for Facebook, for you. What does that look like for you? Write it down. Start writing details. How do you respond when someone says that car costs $75,000? How do you want to respond? If you want to go on a dream vacation, what's the first thing you think about? What's the last thing you think about? Do you first think of how much it's going to cost? Or do you think about the fun you're going to have and the memories you're going to make and the people you're going to be with? What does that look like for you now, and what do you want that to look like? Write those details down. Write the details of what you don't want it to look like. To go along with that don't list, what do you not want it to look like? Write down every scenario. When a bill comes, I don't want to think this. Or when I have a flat tire, I don't want to think this. When I have a flat tire, I want to think this, or I want my money mindset here. When a bill comes, I want my money mindset here. So write those things down. Go through a lot of scenarios. What if someone calls you and they need you to come to their home 3 states away? What do you want your mindset to be like in that scenario? Do you want it to be, well, how am I going to pay for a plane ticket? What about hotels? Hotels are so expensive. Or do you want to all right, I'll do there. I booked the flight already. By the time you're done with the phone call, you booked the flight. What do you want your money mindset to look like in that scenario? Excuse me. And then highlight one or two of those on the positive side and focus on those for a while. Turn those into affirmations. And then as you work on those and you get those where you want them, highlight the next two or three. And so you're just continually transitioning your mindset from the negative, the scarcity, to the abundant side. You don't want to do the whole list at once, because then you'll get overwhelmed and you won't make any progress. You'll shut down. So if you start with two or three and move over in increments. And then how do you know if you're on the right track? Again, look at your current results. While you're doing that, write down your current results today. Let's say you started today. What are your current results? And list them out. Don't be embarrassed. Don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid. Just list them out and be honest. I live paycheck to paycheck. I'm $20,000 in debt. I have $5,000 in credit card debt. Whatever it is, list those out so you have a starting point. Think of it like a GPS. And then as you go through, let's say in 2 weeks, write them down then. Then in another 2 weeks or a month, just do mile markers, a GPS. You start here. Okay, turn left. Okay, turn right. For 200 miles, you get the idea. But keep track of your progress. So you know that you're on the right track, and understanding that you might have to make tweaks or backtrack a little bit or detours, and that's okay, as long as you're still going to your goal. So, and then there are milestones too, as sort of accomplishments. You can look back and look how far I've come. Look at what I did in the last month. Celebrate the small wins. I love that. And again, compare in a good way. Where are you at today, or where are you at 2 weeks ago, versus today. And so you can, again, celebrate the small wins, as well as make sure you're on track to your goal. So, Cassie, any input on that part?
No, like I said, I'm down to talk mindset all day, but it's really, I love the fact that you're really focusing in on the not just, well, you have to think positively, because we've heard the term toxic positivity come through all day, every day, because, social media, it's great. It brings so many topics up for people to learn about and understand, and sometimes we can get flooded by those topics. But toxic positivity is one of those things that come through. And I love that people are recognizing that, positive viewpoints, positive thinking, positive perspectives are extremely important. However, it's not the only resource out there in order to be able to get a handle on things. So trying to go through and say, nope, I'm ignoring everything else. I've got my blinders on. I'm only focused here. This is that's not reasonable or realistic for anyone to be able to take on and hold and just say, this is the only thing I have to do. And I'm just going to stay there, right? There's actual actions we have to take in order to back it up. Usually additional tweaks we have to make in our behaviors and our attitudes and our beliefs and everything else we have to do there, right? And that's what I love where you're talking about with, the different things you need to do. So you're referring to as a financial mindset. There's another little bit more of a, what I call a logical term, because you guys know how your accountants are. We're pretty logical people, right? So another term you could kind of look at it, depending upon who and what preferences you have, would be a financial blueprint, right? So every single building out here ever, well, not ever, I suppose it is a little bit more from modern twist we've got, but most buildings have some sort of blueprint in place. It's the outline, it's the detail, it gets all this information put in place, right? On how to build your house. Your house is built, or the building is built, or whatever it is built from this blueprint, right? So you can't have a blueprint for a cottage and expect a mansion, right? It's just not going to happen. It's not what your builders are going to build. And remember, your builders are kind of like your own internal subconscious self. So if you're looking at your blueprint and what your little builders are building, your subconscious internal self, and it's not building what it is you're looking for, what you're wanting, you can go take a look at your financial blueprint. So, what is your current financial blueprint saying? What are those triggers that get you to go and spend money? Is it a trigger based off of your own need and security, which we all need, right? We all need our housing, we all need our food. Those are triggers that we need to go spend our money. Is there a trigger that's there in the little bit more of a space of this is my hobby, this is what boosts my happy emotions, is this what's going to boost and bring a little bit more positivity and joy into my life? So for example, me buying my sheet music. I'm a piano player, so I like going and buying new sheet music and new piano books on how to play, or buying things for my piano, or buying a new piano even. Those are happy things to come through because it is part of that expression for me. And then there's those triggers that come from those little bit more rough spots in our financial blueprint. So those things maybe, and I hate to be redundant and kind of beat it in that space, but those traumas we've had, whether they're big, huge, big look at me traumas, or they're those little things that just continue to fester and be there and they're not quite resolved, right? So there's going to be those different things that are going to trigger those a little bit more negative, impulsive things that we look at as far as our finances there. So understanding your financial blueprint, your financial mindset, your money mindset, however that term is, being able to stop and take a look at that and say, okay, this is what is currently being built. This is what I'm hoping for. What adjustments do we need to make to our blueprint in order to get over to our cottage? Because remember, no blueprint is ever permanently there. You're able to make adjustments to buildings all the time, right? So start making those adjustments. Tell your builders a little bit of a halt on what's going on there, and make those adjustments to get that end result on what it is you're looking for sure.
Absolutely. And again, it comes back to what your blueprint looks like. And I love how you brought up budgeting and again, and how our concepts and our money mindset and how we're kind of raised and stuff to think that budgeting has to be so restrictive. You know, when I first heard the word budget and stuff before I really understood how to apply it, I thought, I couldn't have any fun. I had to just do the very basics: shelter, food, clothes. That was like pretty much it. But if you want, like you were saying, your hobbies, or you wanted some vacation, or I'm an M&M guy, I love my M&Ms, so that's in my budget. If you have something, if you really like this hobby, well, let's say painting or piano, if that's for your hobby, put it in your budget. Yeah, you might have to back off on a few things over here temporarily if you really want your blueprint to become a reality. But your budget doesn't have to be restrictive like that. Your budget can allow for things that you want in there, and still give you progress towards your goal. And the other thing is, a lot of, especially when like savings or investing in like savings accounts or retirement or whatever like that, we have it in our mind that that money's gone, like we're spending it. But it's, $100 a month for an IRA, just throwing out something. We think that money's gone. We think oh no, it's costing me $100 a month. No, you're investing in your future. You're saving it and earning interest on it for yourself. So we got to realize that and understand some of those things as they are, not how we've been brought up to believe them or misunderstood them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, for sure. There's a fairly well-known budgeting expert out there. I'm sure everyone knows exactly what I'm talking about, but I'm not going to actively go and name any names here. But there's a couple of well-known thoughts of this budgeting expert, and it is, and I appreciate why he says what he says. I really do, because you look at it in the straight logical sense, what he says absolutely makes sense. Now, here's the problem. When you come in and you say, I'm going to slash everything so that I can live right now, Like nobody else is willing to, so I can live like nobody else can, right? We've all heard that term. It's a very well-known term. The problem with that though is that when you slash so far down into the space of no, I will not spend money here. I will not spend money there. This is not an absolute need, so I will not do that. It's like equating over. So, I mean, guys, I'm going to throw this out here. I like food. I think food is one of the best things ever. I think I'm a pretty solid cook. I love to bake. I'm especially a snacker when I'm trying to think. So, I mean, of course, being in the bookkeeping room and everything else, and it's been March, my brain is annihilated. And I'm a snacker when I think, okay? So I can tell you this, that trying to stay a trim, athletic self on what I was when I was a teenager and always moving and everything else has been tough with this food mindset that I've got. I like food. I think it's great. You know, I like treats. Maybe a little bit too much. But you take someone like me, I mean, let's be honest here, guys. You take someone like me who's probably eating at least the maximum I should eat in order to maintain my weight. Some days it increases, some days it decreases, and turn around and say, Cassie, you can only eat 1,200 calories a day. Because if you do that, your body still functions the way we need it to, right? Because we don't want you dying. Usually a good thing. But you're only allowed 1,200 calories, and as soon as you hit that 1,200 calories, you're done, you're out, no matter what else is happening for another 24 hours. How long do you think most people are able to take that drastic of a cut in their calories and actually be able to hold to it? There's a reason why we have yo-yo dieting, and there's a reason why we have yo-yo financials as well. It's a financial diet that essentially people are trying to do when they set these extreme budgets and follow these things. It's not realistic. It's not a long-term maintainable process you're able to do. And that's the biggest thing that I really want people to start thinking about and understanding, is that you're going to have these budgeting experts where technically, yes, it makes sense. We understand why. It's not manageable for most people, though. It's completely unrealistic. So being able to find those budgeting systems that work for you and your financial blueprint, money mindset, whatever term you want to use there, is going to be absolutely imperative. And no, it's not going to be the exact same way you were taught by mom, by dad, by grandma, by next door neighbor, by professor in college, by even myself or Kenny or anyone else. This is literally going to be fine-tuned to you, your needs, your wants, your goals. So that's the biggest thing that I feel like everyone needs to kind of understand, is that everyone's going to have their different perspective on how you should budget, what's important, what isn't. Tell everyone to go eat a brick. Literally, no one knows better than you. So this is the opportunity to take that little internal check and say, okay, how am I feeling here? How am I doing there? What do I want to do? Now, with that said, there are tools and resources. I mean, of course, Google's a great place to be. Different financial pros like Kenny or myself or this other budgeting individual that I'm talking about, or literally anyone else who gets a little bit nerdy in this space. We all have different thoughts and resources. It's going to be a matter of creating your own space, though, right? So one of those very first things that I kind of like to teach my clients when we're coming in, we're really just fine-tuning that budgeting, or as I like to say, that financial stewardship, is look at those times that you've had, and I'd say within the last couple of months, because I promise you've had at least 2 or 3 pop up, whereas I really wish I had the extra funds to be able to do this. Now, that can be literally anything. So for me, one of my most recent ones, because I'm just going to speak for myself here, one of my most recent ones was, I really wish I had the funds to be able to call up a couple of schools and pay off any outstanding lunch balances. Like, that was one of those things I'm like, I wish I could do that, because I heard of a circumstance where, you know, this, and it even comes to like my daughter's school, where if a child goes below a certain point, their account is negative, they will get a milk, a vegetable, and a roll for lunch. And I said, I'm like, first of all, that's humiliating for that child. Secondly, how sad. I would have been starving as a kid if that's all I got for lunch, because whatever may be. So it was, I wish I could do that. So go back and think about those times you're like, I really wish I could just call and make sure everyone is paid off and we have to do that once a month or once a quarter or whatever it might be. Or I really wish that I could go see this movie and not have it be something that really freaks me out. Or I wish I could go to a movie once a month. I wish it was just one of those things that I was able to go and do and it was fun and not something I thought about. Or I really wish I could go shop at this place. So there was this place that I really wanted to shop for a long time, and I was always, no, I can't afford that. It's too expensive. It's not worth it. Now there's Walmart here, and it's no, just if that's what you want, then set it up. Okay. So establish a couple of those things that you've thought about over your mind and went, I really wish I could. And as good as those big old dreams and goals are, I'm all for them. But you got to start semi-realistic and semi-believable for yourself, right? So start off with those smaller things. As much as we all love those cars and those houses and those boats and those trips and everything else, that's a little bit harder for you to swallow initially, especially on your own, right? So start off with those small things. I really wish I could just send $100 over to my kid's school and put more books in the library. Whatever it is you want to do, start with something that you feel like you can absolutely, truly achieve in the next 3 months. And find 2 to 3 of those. Write it down. Let that be your focus. So similar to like what Kenny was talking about with your trying to identify what you want to work on with your own financial mindset. These are actual physical financial goals you can set for yourself, and let that be your true physical space, because as much as we love being in our brains, some of our brains are a little bit more interesting than others, right? But as much as we love being in our brains, being able to put that physical thing as well and put those physical steps into place. And by the way, what it does to your financial mindset is incredible too, when you start looking for those opportunities and those ways to achieve those different goals, which I think is incredibly important, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And excuse me, and using those, like you said, as milestones, as this is what I wanted to do, I did it, now let's go conquer the next mountain, so to speak.
Oh yeah.
And I totally agree, starting with where you're at, and that I think that blueprint is a perfect thing. What is the blueprint you want it to look like? And I believe in those big dreams, those huge things. Identify those things, but like you were saying, maybe start small and have those footprints, but knowing where your ultimate goal is.
Mm-hmm.
If you're driving from Utah to Florida, that's your ultimate goal, but start with that first mile. Okay, I drove the first mile, whatever that first mile is. Know what you want your financial blueprint to look like. And it may change. It may change in 2 weeks, and it may change in 5 years again. And it's
for sure.
Yeah, and it's okay that it changes, and it's okay that you tweak, and you might have to tear down a wall to rebuild something bigger, kind of thing, metaphorically and stuff. But as you have those goals, put those goals out there so that you know what you're going for, and then make those incremental things. Have those daily goals, have those weekly goals, have those small steps, but knowing that you're going to that big goal, and make sure that they're your goals. Really, really think about it. What do I want? Ask yourself that. What do I want? Not what can I afford, not what should I get, or my family's been doing this for 12 generations. What
That's
do you
the generational tradition right there. 12 generations, Kenny. Woo.
and I'm all for traditions and stuff, but if it's something you don't want, or if it's making you miserable, or you don't like it, or whatever, then change it.
For sure. No, and I love your analogy there with driving, because I actually think that is perfect. Where you're mentioning the driving from Utah to Florida. I'm sorry, if you turn around and say, I'm going to make that drive all in one day, or forget the one day because it's almost physically impossible. But say you're going to go and do it in one go, no stopping for sleep or really anything else. You'll go through your drive-through restaurants and things like that. I'm sorry, I'm going to call phony baloney right there. Again, there might be one or two people who might be able to achieve that, but for the majority of us, that's going to be absolutely brutal. No, that's not going to happen, right? So it's very similar. You're setting those goals. Have that end goal in place for Florida, but then turn around and say, okay, I'm going to drive from Utah, depending upon which direction you're going, and I'm going to make it through Colorado by the end of day one. Or you're going to go down, and I'm trying to remember geography off the top of my head, which is not my strong suit, but you're going to end up in whatever state this is over here outside of Utah or Colorado, whatever it may be, right? Start there and say, I'm going to get here. Because, I mean, we've got family, so we live in Utah, we've got family in Oregon and Washington and everything else. Sometimes on those drives, it's, okay, we're going to get here, and then we're going to get out. And we're going to let everyone run around because kids are cranky. And that's literally all you can focus on is, I just need to get here. Let me get here, and then we can reevaluate our next goal. So take it in those steps, just like exactly what Kenny mentioned, where you can't just say, well, there's this, and that is so overwhelming. And again, not a realistic thing to focus on. Set those base goals and expectations in place, and then let yourself reevaluate each and every step of the way. Right? And I'm sorry, Kenny, if this is totally throwing off in anything you're planning here, but I'm sitting here going, I kind of want to do it. So we're going to run with it if you're okay with that.
Go for
But I
it.
want to be able to talk about some perspectives and thought processes when it does come down to budgeting, what you might want to do initially, and then a couple of different viewpoints you might want to have along the way. So I'm actually going to go in and share my screen. Actually, no, we're going to do this first, and then I'll go share my screen. Anytime you go in and you look at your budget, you ask yourself, okay, what am I spending here? What am I spending then? You're separating out your various categories as far as on average each month, what it is you're doing, right? I'm pretty sure most of us could sit down and say, okay, well, I'm paying this much in my mortgage. I'm paying this much for groceries. This is my budget for gasoline. This is my budget for our entertainment. This is what we're trying to set aside into our savings account. That's what we do in a donation or whatever it may be, right? Most of us can sit down and go do that. This is what I call an imagined budget. Because for most of us, we will sit down and say, well, this is our budget, but we don't actually have the ability to take a budget that's in our brain and actually implementing it in a very physical way and actually to follow it month to month. Now, again, talking about our budgeting expert here that I will not name because we don't want anyone to feel bad or down or anything else. Because again, I'm not bashing on anyone. It's my own personal perspective, but the cash systems that are taught by a lot of budgeting experts where they say, well, take your cash, you have your money go into your account, we'll pull it all out, split it all up, and put in your cash and put in these different categories. Again, I understand the psychological reasons on why and everything else. Here's the problem with that, though, is we are not living in a cash society anymore, right? And he may have changed his tune a little bit and start teaching some. I honestly don't. I don't really follow him that closely anymore. But we don't live in a cash-based society, really, at all. So whether you are renting or you're paying a mortgage, neither party that's going to take your money to pay for your house is likely to take that in cash, depending on what's going on there. I know that for us to pay for our house, it's really difficult to get that paid in cash, right? So when you have this imagined budget and you have it over here, but you're living in a digital world without really those resources in place to keep your budget true to what it is you're saying, that can make it difficult, which is why I say we've got an imagined budget. So when you're first sitting down, write out your imagined budget if you don't have it already, and take a look at it and see what it is you think you are doing or what your goal is that you're doing or however you want to look at that, right? And then let's look at kind of a little bit on what you're doing to adjust that. So I'm actually going to go share my screen here, and I'm going to show you typically what we do, and hopefully you can see this. Kenny, are you able to see this at all, this spreadsheet?
Yep, I can see it.
You can? Okay, great, because it is not showing me on my end. It's being shared here. But this is typically what we show with our clients when it comes down to their financial stewardship, aka a budget. Okay. We like to have a category over here for income. Whether there's just one job in the household or there are six, I want you to list out every single job or source of income or whatever it may be that is hitting your household, right? And then we're going to break up into a couple of categories here. So the first one here is housing. Housing is one of the biggest stressors that I have found a lot of people have because it is the one that it's usually pretty set and it's usually fairly expensive. So whatever you're paying for your mortgage or your rent, usually one of our biggest bills, right? So housing is one of the first ones I like to go and take a look at. So how much is your rent? How much is your mortgage? On average, how much are you paying for your electric bill? If you're set up on a flat monthly rate with your utility company, great, put that in. If not, calculate out the last 12 months. What are you averaging? And put that sucker in here. Put in your gas, your city, which is your water, sewer, trash, anything else, your HOA, your internet. Oh, hey, now it's popping up showing me that it's sharing. Look at that. Okay. And then the next one, whoa, that just zoomed in. Sorry, y'all. There we go. Okay. So next is your day-to-day needs. These are your needs, meaning what you need in order to either still be alive or still be allowed to go into society, right? So things like your groceries, your household items. So your toilet paper, paper towels, cleaning supplies, detergent. I usually lump that under your household items. Some people like to separate it out. You do whatever works for you, right? How much are you paying in your gasoline? This is different from the gas that goes into your house, right? This is the gas that goes into your vehicles. Your clothing, because most places you might be arrested for indecent exposure if you're running around naked. So clothing is usually a need we've got, right? Your medical expenses, again, those things that will keep us alive. Our pets, I know that our cat keeps us alive sometimes because, she's our sweet little thing. Daycare, child support, things like that. Those needs where I have to do this, otherwise there's usually big problems in place, right? Next come your wants. So that includes things like eating out, your experiences, your extras, those subscriptions, your cable, things like that usually go over into your wants. Next comes your debt. So any auto you pay, your insurance, your credit cards, I say your cell phone goes over here because let's be honest, we are usually paying extra on our cell phone for the actual device and we very rarely pay it cash, right? So I usually say our cell phone goes over into the debt. Any sort of student loans, if you have a HELOC on your house, now keep in mind that that is separate from your housing, right? So if you have a mortgage, your mortgage doesn't go over into your debts because you need somewhere to live, right? HELOC is usually used for other things. That's why I kind of put it over here, especially if you've got an outstanding balance on it, right? Next, we like to take a look at our giving. So you're giving like a donation, are you doing like a tithing, are you doing over to teachers, schools, or an organization, or whatever that looks like. Set aside what this is. Now, this is, remember, how you're kind of processing through your new financial stewardship relationship, right? Then your savings, your emergency fund, your 3 months income, your 401k, whatever that looks like. And then lastly is your investment accounts here, right? So whatever that looks like, whether you have properties you own, you're putting money into stocks, you've got a fund you're investing into as far as like you're being either a private money lender or hard money lender or whatever that looks like, okay? So you've essentially got all these subcategories you're looking at. Put in those dollar amounts, kind of like what we talked about, and then you'll see up over here, we've got happy little percentages going on. So just for kicks and giggles, y'all, we're just gonna fill this out just in a couple of spots here so you can see what that looks like. But you can see your percentages start to change. One budgeting system you can take a look at is using a mix between what Mike McCall teaches in Profit First, which I love to help businesses implement, But you can do this personally as well because that's what we use, and it's been slick because my husband does not like pulling out cash. He is definitely I am wealthy, whether we're actually wealthy or not, but I like to use a credit card or a card or a debit card or whatever that is. I do not pull out cash unless I have to because it makes me feel poor. Again, that's going back to that financial blueprint we talked about or the money mindset or whatever it may be, right? Okay. But I like to use a mix between what Mike Michalowicz teaches in Profit First, which is essentially taking and creating with each of these a separate bank account that goes with it. Okay. So for us, we have a housing account, and that is where our mortgage for our payment for our house, our electric bill, our gas, our HOA, everything goes on this housing bill or this housing account, and it's pulled from that housing account. Everything for our debts, because we've got a car loan, we've got our credit cards we pay on, and that sort of thing. All of that goes into our debt account, and it is pulled from there directly. So they are separate accounts. What that does is it allows us, and this is just kind of like I said, that's our process for us and what works for us, and it might be helpful in kind of jump starting your brain into going, ooh, I like this for my own self, or whatever you want to create for your own self, right? But it allows us to be able to use things like our credit cards, where we've got our grocery budget. Well, we actually take our grocery budget and put over into our debts and put it over into our credit card we use for our groceries. And we add that up, so we're able to use it. We know what our drop debt amount is for our groceries and our gas and everything else. And once we hit that part of our credit card is done. So we've got to be good stewards of it over the course of the year or the month, right? But it allows us to be able to go in and use that. Our money is set aside, so it's not this big question mark of, do I have the ability to go out? Do I have the ability to buy groceries? Do I have this ability here? Do I have that? Yes, you do, because you've already got it pre-set aside. And by the way, it's not touching what you have to pay for your rent or your mortgage. It's not touching that part that you've already set aside for what you want to donate. It's not touching that part of your savings or your investments or your debts or anything else, right? You are separating the funds out and saying, my housing is right here. This is literally just for my housing. My housing is secured, it is safe, we are taken care of because it's right here, and I'm not going to accidentally overspend because then I'd have to physically go transfer this money, and I will not physically go transfer this money, right? So that is an option you can look at when it does come down to your budgeting. But when you are ready to really kind of dive in and start setting up a system, go back and take a look at, and this is what I was saying, your imagined budget versus what you really do. Once you write down your imagined budget, go back over your last 1 to 3 months worth of statements and literally write out and separate all of your expenses into those different categories to see what your actual is. I can promise you, your imagined versus your actual for most people, unless they've got a really good actually implemented budget in place, their actual spending is significantly higher than what their budget was, because you didn't have something to take it out of the imaginary space into the real physical space. Okay, so take a look at that and see if there's any way to come in and pull your budget from that imaginary space into your real space. And I think you'll start to really see where it's at. Will start to make a difference to start achieving those goals we've talked about and pull out those even bigger dreams off the shelf and really start being able to achieve them, because now you are being a good steward of your finances, which means they are now able to turn around and start taking care of you as well, which is what our partnerships are supposed to be with our money anyway, right? I mean, that is ultimately our goal.
Yeah, absolutely. You are supposed to be in charge of the money and have it work for you and not vice versa. So that was an awesome example. I love that. And again, like we've said, maybe this exact system doesn't fit for you, or maybe it fits for you for the next 3 months, and then you might have to tweak it in 6 months, and that's okay. There's several things that I've implemented that I've changed, and I've totally 360 from a year ago, and things like that. As things change, as income increases, as debts fall off or whatever, So it's a constant adjustment, just like a road trip. If you get a flat tire or the road's closed, you're gonna have to find a way around it and do this number and stuff. So perfect example. I love that. So, and we had a comment over here. I love that. Set your goal. What is your goal? And then you'll figure out the how later. If your goal is to pay off the lunches like you mentioned, or you want a goal of being able to not worry about when you put gas in your car, or if you want to go on this cruise, set your goal. And then the how will come. We'll put things in place. You'll do the budgeting, and it could be part of your budgeting. One of those categories can be saving for that whatever, but you have to have a destination in place, big or small, excuse me, to get there. And then don't let that destination be determined by your current circumstance.
Oh, for sure. I mean, keep in mind that money wants to be wanted. In fact, Absolutely. It's not even want. Money needs to be needed. It needs it. It's a little high maintenance in that way, right? But it needs to be needed. It needs to have a space where I don't want to just sit there and not have a purpose. Like it's kind of finicky like that. So if you look at money in a little bit of a way, like where it's a little high maintenance and its needs, but once you kind of start to understand your money and what all you guys are doing with it, like seriously, give it a little bit of a personality. It makes it so much easier to take care of it when you look at it it's this little thing that it's not a demon. It's a little thing that I'm here to nurture, grow, develop, and guess what? I'm gonna grow, develop, and nurture with it, right? So when you start literally looking at it in that positive space where it's not a demon. Money is not the root of all evil. I will argue that until I am dead, and even then I'll come back and haunt and argue it still. It is not evil. It is not the root of all evil. All it does is make you more of what you naturally are. Okay? So looking at it in the sense of, I am naturally a good person. I am naturally a kind, giving, loving person. More of that is good. More of that is what we need in this world. So because of that, I'm going to do what I can to nurture and grow and develop my money so that I can do even more of that. Perfect.
Yeah, money likes to have a job. It's a tool. Think of tools in your toolbox. You got a hammer, it wants to be put to use. If I had $1 million and it just sat here on my desk, it'd be no different than the sticky note sitting here. It'd be paper, just paper. Until it's put to use, whatever that is, in your spreadsheet, your money, your job over here is to pay for the house. Money, your job over here is to pay for groceries. Now your job over here, so everyone, it all has a job and it loves that. And this might sound silly, but it talks to other money. Says, hey, Cassie knows what she wants. She has a job for us. Let's get some of our friends and bring them along too.
Money is just energy. Energy is literally just a bunch of vibrations depending upon your buildup of whatever it is, right? Literally everything is just energy, depending upon what other elements are connecting it all together. So if it's all just energy and it's all essentially just a bunch of vibrations, would it not arguably be that type of positive vibration that goes with it to bring more into that space exactly the way it's literally, that is our whole being, our molecules and vibrations, right?
Absolutely. It's going to want to bring its friends. If you got that positive vibration and you have things implemented and starting in place, it's going to bring more of its friends. The positive vibration is going to flow out, and that's why we need these steps. That's why I'm a big proponent of dreaming big. You want to have a goal. Okay, my goal is this. I'm going to figure out how to get there. I'm not going to let it stop me, since I don't know how yet, but that's not going to stop me, because I will along the way. Money hears that. Energy hears that. The universe hears that. So it's going to bring in the resources and tools and the people it's not coincidence that Cassie and you and I got connected,
Right.
because we are helping each other help others, and the universe heard that and money heard that. It's like, all right, let's connect you. You're going to do this workshop. You're going to help others. So you're going to grow, like you said, on the journey as well. And then you're going to be able to, increase that level as you go. So I absolutely love that. Let's see here. Perfect. Um, so thank you for those watching. Thank you for the comments. Cassie, do you have any other notes at this time?
I have nothing else planned. Anything that comes out of my mouth from here on out is pure impromptu.
Perfect. Yeah. So rewatch this multiple times. It's on Facebook. It's on YouTube. It's on Twitter. So it's out there. So rewatch it. If you need it for whatever reason, let us know and we'll get it directly to you. And if you have any questions about any of this or want any more information, oops, wrong button. Cassie, where can they find you? What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Absolutely. So you guys are always welcome to check out our website. So that is Ascend, ASCEND, BKS as in books, B as in boy, K as in, we'll say Kenny, and then S as in Sam. So sendbks.com, that is our website. Or you're always welcome to shoot me on over an email. That is Cassie@ascendbks.com. I'm always down to talk nerdy. Yeah, obviously this is where I get super nerdy. So let's just have a conversation and see what resources we might be able to get in place for you.
Perfect. And verify this, make sure I've got that correct.
Perfect. I love that you did that. Thank you.
So yes, go there, talk to Cassie if you've got any questions on any of this. And no question, this is another misconcept, I think. No question is too silly. I'd rather be embarrassed for an hour, even a month, and then rather than having to live with it for the next 5 years.
So I have another individual that I associate with in the financial world, and he has said it so many times, and I 110 billion% agree. For so many people, it is significantly easier to talk or to be naked in front of your doctor than what it is to talk about your finances with literally anyone, and sometimes even your spouse. It is hard. It is vulnerable. I'll be honest out there, y'all. I've seen some interesting things, including in our own life, because usually you only get nerdy when you have the biggest pain points, right? So there's literally very little that could come out and surprise myself, and I'm sure, Kenny, you're the exact same way. There's very little that actually surprises anymore. And it's not there to be surprised because, again, everyone is on their own different journey. And it's not our job to judge. It's our job to help you get to your destination.
Yeah, absolutely. And for some reason, it's so weird that we'll hire contractors, we'll hire plumbers to come clean up the crap that came out of our toilet, or the sewage that spewed out of our disposal because the pipes broke or something.
Yes.
But we're too embarrassed to talk about our finances. I get it, but I'm glad.
Welcome to society, y'all. Welcome to society, literally, where finances are all things taboo, and I'm here to, and Kenny's here as well. They're not taboo. Let's have those hard conversations. Let's get nerdy with each other, and if you don't want to get nerdy, that's fine. I'll get nerdy enough for you. Kenny will get nerdy enough for you.
Yeah, and if you want to ask the question anonymously, post it on one of our pages or have a friend post it or whatever, comment it on YouTube and be anonymous. You can click post anonymously on YouTube and we'll answer it there if you really are truly embarrassed, and we get that, we understand that, but we want to help. So if you need to start there, then start there. Just reach out, ask for help, somebody, hey, I have a question. And, of course, it's all confidential. We don't put this on Facebook or YouTube any of our private conversations, of course, and so there's no worry about that. But we're here to help. So please, again. Oh, wrong one. Sorry. Technology, you gotta love it sometimes. There's her website. Here's my website. Please send us emails, give us phone calls, shoot us texts, get on our social media, whatever we need to do. And let us help you. So, again, thank you for joining us, Cassie. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for the invitation.
And we will see you next time. Thank you for watching.